Hi guys, today we are going to discuss about Linux and what exactly is Linux, how it is differ from Windows and Mac, and what are the different types of Linux we have, and again what is the Linux core, what is the packages, and the terminology of Linux, how it differ from Windows, and why you need to learn Linux because many of our tools are based on Linux. Again, this is just I'll be doing this in two parts. Number one part, I will cover the Linux, which is required for a penetration testing or ethical hacking, and your day-to-day usage or administration. And second part will be all about the security aspect. That means we'll be installing the security packages and the scripts which are used for ethical hacking and penetration testing engagement. And eventually, that particular Linux system will become a part of our penetration testing lab. Now, when I say penetration testing lab, so whenever you are planning for an engagement, just a minute, guys. So whenever you are now getting any engagement or want to do any engagement, you have to make sure you are ready with your system. That is a lab system, particularly Kali Linux or any other Linux flavor. So why I don't use Kali Linux in an engagement and why I use Kali Linux? Number one, why I don't use Kali Linux is a security distro of Linux. It's come with thousands of tools and software, which may not be useful for me, and it will create a kind of noise on the network. And why I use Kali Linux? Again, the same thing, which come with lots of tools, and I need not to install each and every tool, then configure, then look for dependencies, all these things. So pre kind of package. Now, do we have any other security distros apart from Kali Linux? Yes, we do have Auditor, we do have Garuda, we do have Black Arch, we do have Parrot. Okay, and Kali and Parrot, they both are very popular distros when it comes to your engagement. Let's discuss what is Linux. Just as you know, Linux is an operating system. Again, we do have two types of Linux. So one Linux is a server side operating system, server operating system, you can say server OS, and another one is client operating system. Can I use server operating system for day to day? Yes, again, it's a kind of a headache and not headache, you can say it's a kind of little bit, cumbersome because, you need to be aware of Linux, how you need to configure firewalls and everything. So that is the reason we stick with the client OS of Linux. And one good thing about Linux is like, I can convert my client OS, or I can say desktop OS. With a single command, I can convert my desktop and I can, add a service as a server to this desktop so that I can, do a server activities on that. With, by uninstalling that particular command, we get the, same old desktop OS. Number two, Linux is a multi-user operating system. That means, you can say create multiple user. You can log in to any user without logging out. Unlike Windows, wherein you have to log out from one user session to log into another one. Number three is robust. Number four is less resource hungry. If you take Windows, any operating system, right, Windows 11, the latest one, it requires 4 GB of RAM, but the recommended is 8 GB. The minimum is 4 GB, and quad core processor. That means a 4 core CPU, and at least 50 to 60 gigs of hard drive space. And for Linux, the minimum is, again, it's based on the distro. We do have light versions of Linux, wherein you have only the core. There's a the core of Linux, which is a pure, can say something like the minimum Linux plus GUI interface. which can run even on 256 MB RAM as well. But again, I don't really recommend. At least 2 GB RAM is something I feel very comfortable. And coming to the CPU, you can run on one CPU or two CPUs, totally up to you. And the hard drive is a minimum of 8 GB. So compared to Windows. Okay, there's something about Linux, and big question is, hey Nankishore, you know what? Uh, can't we do this penetration testing and ethical hacking using Windows boxes or Windows system? Very much you can do that. The only thing is Windows is a proprietary software. That's a closed software owned by Microsoft. So sometimes you don't find tools which are compatible with Windows. Yes, by using some XYZ method, you can install those tools. Again, you will face that what call a kind of compatibility issues. But Linux is open source. You can install Windows applications on Linux. You can have Linux applications. You can install a script, everything. Like anything you can do. Highly customizable. Coming to the security, guys, Windows. When you do a fresh installation of Windows, even though you do a fresh installation, by default, some of the information is shared with the Microsoft. Let me show you where I can find that information. Settings, we have something like privacy. Yeah, privacy and security. So this is a window wherein you need to turn off many of the features in order to Windows stop sharing your data with Microsoft or its third party. Go through this entire thing, guys. More or less Windows touching permission. Yeah, I have disabled all these things. So in the same way, again, even though if you disable many of those things, still some of the information Windows will use. They say we are using for diagnostic and user friendliness, whatever it may be. But yes, they do take your information, something like your email address, what kind of data you are using, processing, and what kind of website you do. But Linux is something like no, it is not owned by anyone. It is under GPL. That means you can use Linux, you can customize Linux, you can develop your own Linux from the the core, and you can forward the Linux. But again, no money is involved. Everything should be free because the general public license, right? So that means you cannot sell Linux. One term. Second thing, by default, Linux is secure. That means since it is not owned by anyone, so Linux will not share your data with anyone by default. Very less data, even you can control that within 2 or 3 clicks. Number four, the Linux security is, by default they will implement some security, but more or less it depends on your hand. Like if you want to implement 100% security, you can do that. 50% you can do that. You want to stick with the default setting, this also you can do that. Windows, yes, you cannot implement 100% security. Okay, let's discuss, right? So that's about the Linux. What are the types of Linux? Now basically we have four types of Linux. One is the Debian flavor. Second one is Red Hat. Third one is Arch. Fourth one is BSD Linux. So this is a very good website, guys. Just a minute, let me. So they keep a track of all the license vocal flavors of Linux for the last 6 months. Then you can see which Linux is very taking the first rank, second rank. So that's how it is. Linux distro. Probably my internet is slow because of the rains. Yeah. For the last 6 months, MX Linux take the first rank, then followed by Endeavoros, then Mint, then Manjaro, Debian, Pop, Fedora, blah blah blah. So we have many flavors of Linux, guys. So they stop the count at 100, but we do have many. So what exactly this means? All this Linux they fall under any of these four categories. So the last category, this is something like BSD Linux is nothing but your Mac OS owned by Apple. Okay, so all these different OS are fall under the first three categories. Debian or Red Hat and Arch. Arch Linux is a little bit of can't say difficult, but I'm not aware of Arch Linux. I never worked on that. It required good skills to learn Arch Linux. Yes, remaining, Red Hat and Debian. Yes, I did work in the past, and Red Hat more or less they use in the corporates. So whenever you use a word called corporate, you see Linux service, more or less a Red Hat service or CentOS service. So Debian, yes, very much similar to Windows, very user friendly, very easy. And Red Hat also is easy. Earlier it was difficult, but everything is easy now. So you can put the Linux in any of these three categories. The only difference is the core remains the same. Core of Linux, that is what kernel. Okay, kernel. Kernel is a minimum operating system. You can say is a core. So this is same for all all the four categories, guys. This is same for this, same for this as well, and same for this as well. If that is the case, then what is the advantage the end user is having is that means you can use the same command across different types of Linux. 80% of the same command, 70% of the same commands. The number is very tentative, but again, I say 70 to 80%. But remaining 20% is depends on the flavors, right? So Mac, you can use Linux commands in Macs, Arch Linux, Red Hat, Debian, the same one. Okay, so that's about the Linux, and again Debian. We have in Debian we have something in Ubuntu, Kali, Parrot, Parrot OS. Okay, Mint, all these things. Manjaro is the Arch Linux. And Debian, Red Hat. We have something like Fedora, SUSE, Mandriva, Mandrix. These are all Red Hat Linux. I started my career with Red Hat. Yes, I felt very easy, but again, I don't want to be a Linux administrator. That means I need Linux for my day-to-day use, but more on the security side. Then I shifted to Debian. So Debian less configuration, then you can use. Okay. Now coming to the Linux, these are type of Linux, and Linux used for category wise, different scenarios, you can say different scenarios. So again, we have one scenario as forensic. Then we have security. Okay, we have what privacy, anonymity, and etc. The list goes on, guys. Okay. Now the thing is the word non-Kishore, what are these? So we do have security specific distros, something like we have Kali Linux, Parrot, Parrot, and we do have Auditor, Garuda. So the list goes on. The same way, forensic we have separated, dedicated, specific Linux. Even in Parrot as well in Kali, you will find forensic modules. Same with privacy, anonymity modules also you'll find in Kali and Parrot. That means what this security distro do provide other scenario tools as well. Okay. No, do I need to learn all this thing? No, guys, just stick to the basic. The core is same. Okay, that means you learn one Linux, more or less, you will understand other Linux as well. So, can I create my own distro? Yes. So I will create my own distro. I'll say Nan Kishore distro or Nan distro. Kishore distro. So generally, what I do is I take the core of Linux. Then on top of that, I'll implement all the security tools which I used for my engagements. Then again, then I'll name it as non-Linux. So this is very much possible, guys. The same thing what offensive security guys have done. So the offensive security guys, they own this Kali Linux. What they have done is they have taken the core of Linux, then they have implemented security tools, then they name the Linux as Kali Linux. Kali Linux, okay. So Kali Linux, that means, okay. So this, clear a scenario like I can use any Linux, I can use anything. You can, I can implement anything. I can make my own thing. Yes, very much true. So in my real-time engagement, I don't use Kali Linux, but rather I use Mint Linux. Then on top of Mint Linux, I will be using, a set of tools, some tools like Metasploit, Nmap, NetDiscover, WFuzz. There are many tools, right? I have my own list of tools. I'll install that. Then I use that particular Linux for engagement, real-time engagement. I can use Kali Linux, but one of the drawback with not drawback I can say, one of the thing Kali Linux come with a Kali Parrot. They come with thousands of tools installed, which will create noise on the noise on the network. If the IDS IPS pick my Kali Linux Parrot fingerprint, right? It will create a kind of nonsense on the nonsense on the network. So main Linux, that's fine. So so that is about Linux. And now what we do, what Linux we install, and what we do, we will install the mint Linux. And we'll be learning the basic as we discuss. Part 1 is all about basics, part 2 is all about security. Okay, part 1 I'll complete in this video. Part 2 I will cover when we are doing your network pen testing, that is tomorrow, guys. Okay, again I have my virtual box. I'll create a virtual machine, new virtual machine. Okay, this is my mint Linux based on Debian. Okay, lab machine, lab 1. Okay, ISO, I do have ISO. Where's the mint? I'll go with this mint XFCE. So one more thing, guys, I want to tell you, right? Linux come with different desktop environments. Desktop environment is nothing but your GUI, look and feel of the Windows have one theme, right? In the same way, Linux do have many themes. We have Cinnamon, we have Mate, we have XFCE, and we do have many things. Genome, I think GNOME desktop environment. So I prefer with Mate because I want a clean kind of look. And again, you can use many themes in Linux. So XFCE is a specific, special theme which which is something like a minimal installation of Linux. That means the kernel will be installing along with the kernel, the GUI will install, but not many tools. So I get a very minimum Linux installation, you can say. So I stick with that. Okay, it is okay. That's fine. Next, okay, I'll create my own user. Eagle. Okay, that's also fine. Grab machine one. Next, okay, I will give what I do have good amount of CPU, right? Let me give RAM 6 GB base memory, and CPU. Let me give what 5 CPUs. Let me give 4 CPUs. But one thing, guys, when you're installing anything on the virtual machine, make sure your host should have enough hardware. Host means Windows 11 machine, and this is a virtual machine, guest operating system. And make sure your slider will play in this green zone, not on the red zone. If it covers the red zone, that means it will affect the base system activities or performance. Okay, let's go. 25 GB is more than enough for me. That's fine. That's it. So this is my system. I want to what fail to okay. I don't know why it got fail. Keep settings. That's fine. Okay, this is fine. Advanced. I just want to enable the drag and drop from the host and guest. So if you don't understand host and guest, please see my virtual box video wherein I have discussed virtualization in detail from a security point, and I did install the security lab on that. Okay, system what we have 6 GB, that is fine. We have display, that's also good. Storage, yes, this is fine. Network, I will put that in that, that's fine. Okay, it's running. Oh, it's running, right? So let me install. Okay, we have three different ways of installation, guys. Number one is live system. That means before trying the Linux, we can select this particular option and we can boot into Linux and we can experience Linux, how it looks. How it looks. It's a fully functional Linux. Okay. Second one is customizable installation wherein we can customize. Third one is OEM, that is, if you have a Dell laptop, it will by default, select the Dell specification, and it will install according to the Dell specifications. So let's start with the first option. So I want to see the Linux before I install what I'm installing. Okay, now let me maximize my screen. Super. Going through this. Yes, this is a Linux. It's a fully functional Linux wherein I can browse internet, I can ping other systems, anything I can do. Yeah, it's pinging Google. That means it has internet. I can install software, but once you restart, everything will disappear because this is a live instance of Linux, right? We have not installed. Close. Go to the desktop. Now we will install the Linux. This is taking good amount of time, and I really don't know why. Let me just turn this off. Restart. So you can install the Linux from the desktop as well as from the start menu. Okay. Okay. Now I want to install the Linux. So this is how, just keep a track, eye on your base system or host system hardware resources, especially the CPU and the RAM. So one thing, guys, when I was configuring my virtual machine, right? When it comes to the hard drive, I give 25 GB, and that 25 GB is not blocked in one go. The maximum size is 25. Initially, the minimum installation of Linux will take 8 GB, so it will take 8 GB on the hard drive, but it will reserve space of 25 GB. Now you can, if you have a 100 GB hard drive, right? So 25 plus 75. So 25 you keep it for a virtual machine, 75 you keep it for your Windows, and eventually 75 will fill. Again, it will take more. Eventually, accordingly, Linux will adjust. Okay. Yes, I want to do the installation English. It's fine. Keyboard English, USA. It's fine. I don't want to install any coders. This for audio, video, multimedia codes. Especially useful when you install the VLC player or any other thing, because sometimes there is an extension called .ts. This is an audio video file. They don't work properly until unless you get a proper installation, proper codes. Okay, guys, I will pause the video for a minute. Once the installation is done, or let's keep the video. Don't worry. Yes, erase everything. Install only the Linux. Yes, you can install along with Windows. I have my personal laptop. On that, I have dual boot, Windows and Linux, wherein the boot manager will prompt me whether to use Windows or Linux. If you want to install, if you want to try such kind of installation, there are videos on the YouTube. Search for dual boot operating system. Something else, this advanced way of installing license as a Linux. If you are aware of Linux file structure, then you can use that. For new users, I always recommend go with the default settings. So if you want to go with something else, then you have to give the boot size as 200 or 250 MB. Then everything install under a slash. Again, you give more size for slash. Then again in slash home where all user directories are installed. You have to give a separate size for that. Swap memory you have to give. So there you go. By default, right? If you install Windows, so what will happen is once the Windows is installed, the Windows will automatically log you in admin login session. So what will happen is you update Windows, then you create a normal user, log out of the admin user, then log in with the normal user. So if then started using the normal user. So if at all, unfortunately, your system got say infected by any malicious thing down the time, okay, then you can delete. Now you can go back to the admin user, then delete this particular normal user, then create one more normal user. This is how the practice should be. By default in Linux, it will not log you in the admin user. Rather, it will create a normal user. Here we are creating a normal user as Eagle. It will log you into the Eagle login. So guys, I need to pause the video because it will take a little bit of time for installation. Again, it depends on your hardware. So some common terminologies, right? In Windows, we call as administrator, and the same administrator we call him in Linux as root. So in Windows, all the users are created under a home directory. So let me show you that. See, sorry, users under this directory called users. In Linux, all the users are installed under home directory. And before that, let's discuss about the Linux file system. So in Linux, everything is file, guys. No directory, sorry, no partitions, right? So let's see what we have. I really don't know, man. I need to restart my system. Any updates or something? Yeah, let's stick to this image. This is image is very simple. Okay. So slash bin is a folder wherein you will have all the commands. All the commands in Windows you use ping, right? The same in the vocal Linux, but ping command. So again, ping is also a file in Linux. So Linux everything is file. That means in a file they have written the ping code. Okay, in Windows it's a exe. compiled, binary compiled, but in Linux is a file. Slash sbin is a command which are used by super user. There's nothing but your administrator, something called as root. etc is all about configuration file, guys. So the Linux, you install third party software, the basic settings, everything, all the configuration settings will be done in the etc. So tomorrow, Nankishore, I install some VLC player, I want to do some kind of configuration in VLC. Yes, you have to go to the etc folder. Dev we don't use much, PRC we don't use much. The slash vr is for variable files. This particular folder is very much important because it contains the log files. If you want to host your website, under this folder you have something like www folder wherein you can host your website. Temp for temporary files. Slash user we don't require, and slash home, which is very important, all your home directory, something like this, right? I have none them, and none is something like administrator, this normal user, and have one more user called public. So those kind of things, right? All the users will be installed on their home, and every user will have the desktop, download, these kind of folders. So slash user, slash none, then slash desktop or something like that. Boot is a folder wherein you'll find all boot related files. For example, when Linux is not booting, right, you are getting some issue, then boot, check the boot files. LIB is for library we don't touch. OPT is for third party applications. Something like if you're installing VirtualBox or something, they'll be installing OPT. MNT media, again, straight away, guys. We don't use much, but I'm telling you. So all the folders, right? All the folders are installed under the slash root. These are root directory. Root user is different. Root directory is different. So root, you'll find one more folder called slash root. That is our home folder of the say is that, yeah, home folder of the administrator. All the remaining users are created under home, but only for administrator we have a separate folder, security, right? And all everything is installed under slash root directory. Now if you want to do a customized installation like something else, when you see that particular word when you are installing the Linux, in that case, so for the boot you have to give 100 to sorry, 200 MB for the boot, for the bootable files. Then just give 8 GB for slash yeah, this is 8 GB is fine for slash. And for the home you have to give some 20 or 30 GB, because wherein all your users will store their data in this home, and rest of the things will automatically share the 8 GB which you allocated for slash root. So it's again, it's totally up to you how you want to install. So this is about Linux file system, guys, very important. Always remember slash etc is something we really work. And when you talk about the security distro, slash usr, this folder is very much important. Under this folder you'll find one more folder called share. I think share, under share you will find all Kali Linux tools. We'll discuss that as well. Okay. So one question, the same thing, right? Nankishore, is Linux hard? Linux is not hard, guys. Earlier, probably 15, 20 years, it was a little bit difficult. The reason is everyone was very much aware of Windows. No one want to try Linux. But now, Linux is very user friendly, and you don't find much difference when you're switching from Windows to Linux. As I told you, Linux is an open source operating system. That means fully customizable, and that is the reason we use Linux for penetration testing, ethical hacking, black hat, white hat, whatever you want to say. Windows, yes, you can do your penetration activities with the Windows, but again, lots of dependencies. Some tools that don't work, some tools required, special compile kind of things. So guys, it is taking some time. Let me pause the video here.